Hello, friends and fellow lovers of all things beachy. Welcome to The Beach Speaks, the podcast that shares stories about the beach and our connection to it. I'm your host and beach lover, Paige Friend, helping you reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. So grab a cool drink, relax in your beach chair, stick your toes in the sand, and enjoy this episode of The Beach Speaks. Today's guest is Pam Uzzell, the creator and host of Art Heals All Wounds. It's a podcast that's changing the world, one artist at a time. Pam and I met as members of the Pod Squad, the Slack community created by Squadcast, which is a remote podcast platform that we use to record our shows. Pam reached out to me a few months ago with a wonderful story about her love-hate relationship with the beach. It starts out in childhood and ends in her adulthood, with the series of events in between that help shape and form her sense of self-worth and belonging. It's a self-described rom-com of sorts. We talk about the differences between East Coast and West Coast beaches, how relationships reflect who we think we are or should be, and all the ways we listen to the beach, not just with our ears, but deep within our body and soul. I must mention, we also talk about her recent trip to Maui, which is bittersweet now because at the time of this recording, the horrific fires on the island that completely destroyed everything in its path hadn't happened yet. Here's Pam's story of how her love-hate relationship with the beach became a profound lesson in love, acceptance, and belonging when she finally chose to listen. Hey, Pam, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Paige. Thank you so much for having me on today. I love your show, and I'm excited to talk about all things beachy, as you say.
Let's start first with the question I always ask my guests is, how is the beach speaking to you today?
Wow. Well, it's funny that you asked that. I mean, I have a long history, love-hate with the beach, depending on which beach, but I just got back from an amazing beach vacation to Hawaii. We went to Maui and then Kauai. So that was incredible. And then tomorrow we're going up the coast to Mendocino to spend some time on the beach up there. So I'm really, and earlier in the year, I forgot about that. At Easter, we went to Half Moon Bay. So we are really doing a lot of beach-focused trips, whether they're close by, far away, just to get that hit that you get when you go to the beach.
Yeah. And you are on the Pacific coast, so that's a lot different.
It's a lot different. The Bay Area, and that's when I talk about having a love-hate relationship with the beach. I feel like, kind of my relationship with the Pacific coast in Northern California is sort of like a rom-com where you meet, you don't like each other, and then over time you grow to love each other. Or I think the beach is sort of neutral about me, but I grew to love the Northern California beach.
Yeah, you don't often hear people say I have a love-hate relationship with the beach, but I can understand where you're coming from because when we did our epic trek down the Pacific Coast Highway, and I wanted to stop at all of the beaches. I knew that they would be rocky and they would be very active, as I like to say. I mean, the waves are huge, and it's not like you really want to jump in and swim, at least on the northern Pacific side. Is that what you're talking about, not really getting along with the beach there, or what was it? I mean, I think you have a story where you were here on the East Coast at one point, right? I don't know where you want to start with your story, but...
Well, I think to set up why I was not enamored of Northern California beaches, we would have to start with where I grew up. I did not grow up anywhere near a coast. I was in South Arkansas. There's tons of water. I loved the water of any kind. But the highlight was always in the summers, we would pack into the car, take our little pop-up camper, and we would go to Florida to the beach. And we went to Destin, Florida, which I know that you went to recently. And back in the 70s, I haven't been there since the 70s, but it was paradise. It really was.
Yeah, it still is. There are some parts of it that are not as populated. However, there are a lot of condos and hotels along Fort Walton Beach is really where we stayed. So it was just kind of like Hotel Road. But the water was just that crystal clear blue. I mean, there's a reason why they call it the Emerald Coast. So I can only imagine what it was like back then. And for that to be the beach that you go to when, you're growing up.
Yeah, it sets the bar really high. And I don't remember it being developed. Of course, I only had eyes for the water, the sand, and just, we would spend the day. We'd leave our little camper. My mom never learned to swim, and she was actually afraid of the water. And I think for her, the vacation is that my dad, my brother, and I would get in the car and leave her alone in the camper. And I remember the campgrounds were really nice. There were these tall pine trees. So I think for her, that was her vacation. And my dad would take us to the beach for the whole day. We would be there. And that was the highlight of all my vacations as a kid, was that. That was my idea of a beach.
What did you do as a kid on the beach all day?
Well, I was a big swimmer, a really big swimmer. And I spent the majority of my time in the water, honestly, and playing in the sand. There was nothing about the beach I didn't like. Some people, the sand irritates them or something. I loved all of it. So, yeah. And my dad was really very much like the fun dad. I'm also going to swim. I'm also going to be in the sand. He wasn't the dad who's going to sit over there and read a book. So we did all kinds of things at the beach. We also had a little dog. I'm trying to remember if our dog came to the beach. He probably did. I don't know. I'm trying to imagine a kid who couldn't entertain themselves at the beach all day. Most of the time, my memories are like, no, I don't want to leave. It's not time to leave. Yeah.
Yeah, that is how our 6-year-old granddaughter was when we were visiting. She was sitting in her little chair with the water coming up. That was her big thing. She just wanted to sit there. And when we were packing up to go and we were like really going, she was like, I'm not going. I want to stay here. Can we please stay here? I'm moving here. She was like not going. And of course we were all saying, yeah, we don't want to go either.
I've been to a lot of beaches in my life, I should just say, and there have definitely been some that have been as beautiful, but there was just something so perfect about those summer vacations. And when I was thinking about my story with the beach here, I really was thinking about my whole journey from leaving that place, both physically and emotionally, and moving here. And one thing that's on my mind a lot these days, Paige, is really figuring out how the fact that I'm adopted has played into my emotions and my whole idea of who I am. I was adopted back when adoptions were closed. I knew nothing about my birth family. My mom had a few little rumors that the person who placed me with them had told her, but she didn't know anything for sure. And I've done a lot of reading lately, and when multiple kids in a family are adopted, they kind of fall into two categories. There's one who's kind of like the acting out, angry kid, and then there's one who's kind of the perfect child. And my brother was definitely, he's older than me, was the angry, I'm going to act out kid. And I was the perfect child. And really up through my whole childhood into adolescence, everything just felt great to me. And then when I started really getting into those teenager ages, I really started feeling like I'm in the wrong family. This is not the family I should be with. Really being that kind of I'm the center of the universe teenage thought. It was like, this family is wrong. I need a different family. And this town is wrong. I need a different town. I need a different place. And I wound up in the Bay Area in San Francisco after I graduated from college. And first I went to Oakland. Oakland's beautiful. I'm in Oakland now, but I couldn't really find my spot there. So in less than a year, I moved into San Francisco, and I loved the culture. I love the city. I felt like this is a place where you can be whoever you want to be. But for me at that time, the question was, well, but who am I?
Mm-hmm.
And when I think back then, one of the things that came up was, well, I'm someone who's really not good enough.
Mm.
And I've read since then that this idea that you have a flaw and that you're not really lovable is a really common trait for adoptees. But I had no idea about that then. I just knew that that's how I felt and that's what I believed. And if there had been a beach like the one in Destin, I might have gone there a lot. But I certainly initially sought out the ocean in San Francisco and was appalled. It was just like, this is not a beach. This is freezing, in my opinion. The wind is insane. I've never seen signs warning you of rogue waves and don't turn your back on the beach. It was just like, this is terrible. Why is all this beauty wasted on this kind of beach? Because it's terrible. And I really, for most of my life here, I avoided the beach. Sometimes there would be a social occasion and I would get invited to the beach, and sometimes I would make an excuse that I wasn't available. Sometimes I would go and I would just be thinking the whole time, like, how soon can I leave? This is not a beach. This is horrible. And besides getting off on the wrong foot with the beaches there and the ocean here, this part of the ocean, I also I loved San Francisco. I knew I was meant to be here, but I had such a hard time finding my spot and finding my people. And especially my romantic life, I would call it desperate during my 20s. And I have now that I'm so much older, I have amazing memories of that time. If I'm really objective, I can remember back, boy, there was a lot of misery then as well. And not finally, it was really too soon, but when I was 27, I met this amazing man. He was so handsome. He was funny. He was the life of the party. And all of my friends who had sort of suffered through my terrible, terrible pics and boyfriends were like, we love him. He's wonderful. Don't let him get away. And I was like, oh, okay. And like every part of me, my body, my whole being felt like we are not right together. But I doubted myself so much that I thought, well, my friends are really smart. They must know. I'd be really crazy to let him get away. And so we got married.
So your intuition, I guess, was telling you maybe not, but everyone around you was saying yes, yes, yes.
I guess, but I don't think it's really super productive to look back and beat yourself up. But if I had to go back and advise my 20-something self, I would say, listen to yourself. Your friends don't know. They mean well. It was all the most well-meaning. They were so happy for me. But it's like, even if they think you're crazy to not want to be with this person, But I didn't trust myself at all. And we got married. We had 2 kids. And when my youngest daughter was 4 months old, I thought to myself, I have to either leave or I'm going to die.
Oh, wow.
I love these kids. I want to give my energy and my love to them, but I don't have any energy left to work on this relationship that just wasn't working in any way for me. I don't want to speak for him. He's remained, we're still in each other's lives because we co-parent, but so I'm not speaking for him. I'm speaking only for myself that it didn't work in any way. And I know we're not talking about the beach very much, but...
Well, this sets the tone.
Yeah, it does come back in.
Well, and also it's similar to my story in that I was in this 9-year dating relationship that everybody said, this is a really good guy. And he really was. He was a pure soul. And to be with him was just very grounding, and I needed that and all. But then after a while, and in the back of my mind, I thought, he's not really the guy. And, you just kind of go along and you make it work until you just can't anymore.
It's like you're on a train and then the tracks just disappear. And you're like, I got to get off this train and do something else because it's so true. Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that about you, but that's very similar. And so I was a single mom for 5 years, and then I met this other man, also an extrovert. Everybody loved him, Mr. Charming. And I pushed for this marriage because I, again, had that terrible feeling of I have to prove to people that I am lovable. And the way that happens is that someone marries you. And it was so bad. We bought a house 2 months before we got married. And in that 2 months, there was just not even a tiny intuition, this loud voice saying, call it off. This is wrong. Call it off. And I was not going to do it. I just was thinking, what will everybody think? They'll think I'm unlovable, the blah, blah, blah. This terrible voice in my head that had sort of been talking to me, for most of my adult life. And we got married, and still, I think, you have to, or at least here in California, you have to turn in whatever it is, the certificate or something, or the license or something that the officiate has signed within a certain amount of time, or you won't be legally recognized as married. And I did not tell my new second husband this, but I held on to that to the very last day.
Oh.
Because I just kept thinking, just tell him you don't want to be married. Cut your losses. You're not legally married yet. Just rip up this paper, sell the house, go your separate ways. And I couldn't do it. I just thought so much about what are people going to think? What are they going to say? What are all the people who came to our wedding? They're going to be so mad. Why did I come to your wedding and now you didn't even turn in the paper? This whole thing not letting me do what everything.
Yeah.
Again, my body really talks to me, and I ignore it at my peril. And boy, did I ignore it. That lasted 5 years, which is the exact amount of time my first marriage lasted. And I thought, okay, I really there's a shelf life for unhappiness for me. It's 5 years. then I just cannot go one step further. And a year later, I was turning 46, really feeling like, okay, I love being free, but I'm starting to feel like over the hill. But whatever. I'm just so happy to be free. And I was having a birthday party. And I thought, I am going to invite just all my friends, but also cute guys who I might not necessarily invite, but I'm inviting them to my birthday party. I felt so damaged. I felt so fragile. I didn't think anything would happen. And I reached out to someone I'd gone to graduate school with, and we were really just acquaintances. I was ridiculously attracted to him in graduate school, but I was in the middle of my first rocky marriage, and I thought, that's dangerous. I'm not even going to get to know this guy because he is so attractive to me. And I just thought, I'll invite him to the party. We don't know each other that well, but he'll just be some nice eye candy for these 46-year-old eyes. And, he came to the party, and I felt right away like, okay, this guy seems a little bit interested in me. And in my mind, like, woohoo, I'm single. But finally, after we were talking, he said, well, I don't really understand. Where's your husband? I said, oh, we've been separated for a year, and we're in the middle of a divorce. And it was like light bulb, you could almost see it going on over his head. And we've been together since then.
Oh.
It really was one of the best birthday presents, or the surprises, I guess, because...
Okay, I got to stop you there, because it was on my birthday that I met my soulmate. I had met Ernie online. We had only really been talking, I want to say it was like a week or two. And I was, of course, talking about the beach. And then I talked about my birthday. He said, what are you doing for your birthday? And I said, I'm probably going to go to the beach. And he said, well, I'll meet you and we'll just plan a whole thing. And I said, oh, okay. So it was my birthday weekend, and he planned the whole weekend. People thought I was nuts. Spend a whole weekend with this guy at the beach. But it was like, yeah, we just looked at each other and was like, oh, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. And that was pretty much it. I don't know. What is it about the beach?
We could have a whole conversation about meeting your soulmate on your birthday. It's interesting. I feel like if you are really celebrating yourself, maybe you have your guard down and you're willing to let someone in. I don't know, but yeah, it was amazing. And it was kind of the thing I'd never allowed myself to have. My partner now was very much my type, so attractive to me. We had gone to graduate school together, so we had these really common intellectual interests, and we could just talk for hours. And I really always felt like, okay, you can't have everything. Maybe you'll be attracted to someone physically, but maybe, the rest of the package isn't that great, or some of the other parts of the package are okay, but you're not as attracted to them physically. I never really thought, no, you can have the complete package. I didn't want to hold out for it. And I really thought, oh my gosh, this is amazing. At the age of 46, I'm finally with, the person who in my 20-year-old fantasies I might have fantasized about. And, and the other thing too is that I was deeply in therapy at that point, thank God. And I was able to go completely against type in terms of this extrovert. I'd always been attracted to extroverts. My current partner is an introvert. And I never realized how amazing introverts are. I never would have thought that I would want to be with an introvert, but there's so much going on there, and they're not thinking about, oh, is everybody looking at me? Oh,
Kind of like still waters run deep. There's a lot there going on.
Exactly. But I was still really fragile, though. So it's amazing to me. Like, the first part of our relationship there was a lot of, again, this talk like, you are crazy. The divorce from my second husband was so contentious. And it was really, really hard to handle that and also be in a new relationship. But the part of me that I'm glad I'm listening to was saying, I think you're supposed to be with this person. Yes, it might feel like a crazy thing to do, but I think that this is the person you're supposed to be with. And I listened to that voice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so glad I did. And it's funny because we've talked about it since then. And he had a voice too saying, she is in the middle of a really nasty divorce. Are you sure this is the right move for you to be seeing her? Because this divorce is ugly, it's nasty, and, is this right? And we both had these things going on, but we both felt like we have to be together. And luckily, we took it so slow. We didn't move in together until we've been together for 7 years.
Mm.
Yeah, well, for me, I had that 5-year limit where I hit like the brick wall. And I did feel like, oh my gosh, I really want to see, am I just built to not go past 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
And our 5-year anniversary came and went. It just was like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, we're still, this is still the person. This is my partner. So, we've been through a lot. We've been through the pandemic together, which I feel like, again, that I thought, what is this going to be like? I'm going to be in sheltering in place with someone, even if I love him, this might be awful. And it was not awful at all. It was like, oh my God, thank God you're here. And we got along so well, the two of us and our little dog. And it just felt like things were going stronger and stronger. And every time I had a fear about something, I would get to that thing and it would be like, oh, this doesn't matter at all. Like, I was really afraid of hitting menopause because you read all these things about, oh, menopause is terrible, and, you become less attractive, or you're in your 50s. And I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm so, like, that sort of march towards, like, into your 50s and towards menopause. I just was like so worried. And I know that menopause is really terrible for people, but I had the help of the hormone progesterone, which was a miracle drug, and my transition to menopause was not terrible. In fact, it was like amazing. And then I also got diagnosed with skin cancer on my face, which, yes, on my nose. Luckily, it wasn't melanoma. It's basal cell carcinoma, and you'd have to have it probably for 50 years for it to really be seriously damaging. But, I just thought, oh, not my nose. I've always been sensitive about my nose because growing up, there was nobody else with a nose like mine in my town. Everybody had like the cute little petite noses, and I had this big prominent nose. And like my skin cancer, I'm pointing to right the middle of the tip of my nose, was there. And
if you couldn't have picked a spot,
oh, I know,
where everybody would be looking, or
I know. And then I got it removed, but I do have a scar on my nose. And I was like, oh, great. And you know what I realized is that if somebody loves you, they don't really even notice your physical changes unless you're unhealthy, like, or something like that. But all the things that you're afraid of, I just felt like he doesn't even notice if, what my hair looks like. He doesn't notice if there's a scar on my nose. He doesn't notice if I'm older, which is kind of to me a miracle, because this idea of unconditional love was a foreign concept to me besides what I felt for my kids, and I definitely didn't have it for myself. So what I would say is the other miraculous thing that happened to me after this overall terrible time of the pandemic, but also, I think for a lot of people, life-changing, the very first outing that I had afterwards, after getting vaccinated and everything, like the first outing where I had unmasked, was with a very dear friend who I would say I would have thought of her as one of these crazy people who loves Northern California beaches. And I was so happy we were going to take our little dogs on a walk, and I get to her house in San Francisco, and she's like, I have a great idea. Let's go to the beach. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I hate the beach. But then I also was like, just do it. Just go for this walk on the beach. If you're hating it, you can turn around and come back. And so we went, we're bundled up in our little jackets and everything, and we go to Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and you kind of step on there, and like, it's cold, it's windy, always,
Mm-hmm.
and like that wind, I was like, oh, I hate this wind. But that day, I didn't hate it. It was like you had been inside your house for nearly 2 years. This wind is your friend. And I just loved it. I just couldn't get enough.
Yeah.
My hair was like being blown into a bird's nest. I have like a picture of me that day on the beach. My hair is really funny. But it's just like, oh my God, I can't believe I ever hated this. This is the most amazing, beautiful place I can think of to be. I'm getting energy, the sound, the roaring sound of the Pacific coast. It's like, this is like the most empowering sound and feeling I could even ever hope or wish to have. And we started walking, and I think we walked like 4 miles, like just walking in this wind and this cool air. I just kept thinking, the same as when I was a kid. I don't want this walk to stop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, her little dog, one of them is very old. He had to be picked up and carried for part of the walk because we went so far. But I just thought to myself, how did I ever hate this? This has given me like a new life, like new energy. Being here and getting all this wind, it's like, it's not my energy. It's offering something to me.
Yeah. And I was just thinking, had you gone back to Destin, say, I just want to go back to Destin, it might not have given you that same energy. I mean, sometimes, you can't go back, you needed to go forward. And there is something about the sound and the wind and the cold that it is empowering. It was probably what you needed. Well, the beach always knows what you need. I can imagine that how healing and freeing it felt. Like you could stand strong who you are in this place and love it.
As I said, I like listening to your show because you are always open to what the beach is offering. And that's what I felt like that day. Like I had never been open to what this kind of beach could offer. And I could not let go of that idealized idea of what a beach was supposed to be. And I felt like I don't know who this new person is who loves now these cold, windy beaches, but I like her. I like her a lot. I felt like I discovered the Northern California beaches. We started taking trips, as I said, to Mendocino, to all these places that my partner had wanted to go. And I'd always be like, ugh, there, it's cold. I don't want to go there. And now it's like, yes, let's go. Let's walk along this, the rocky coastline. I can accept that I'm not going to go in there and swim, which for me was what the beach always offered, this chance to be in the water. But it's like, no, this beach is offering something different. I just was never open to it, what it was offering. And you know that I love your episode where you go down to the beach during the Category 4 hurricane. Well, I love that episode because I think I'm still not that comfortable with the beach to do that. But what I love about it is that you said, that you felt the beach sort of speaking to you, saying, I'm still the beach. I'm still, this place that you love. I feel something similar that, okay, this is not the beach that I had in this sort of idyllic or idealized childhood. This, though, is still the ocean, which the fact that we as beings get to live on a planet where there's something in existence called the ocean that we can go to and stand next to, some places we can get into, it's miraculous, really. And you have this. It's right here. You are, you could be at a beach in, 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime you want to be, you can be there. You can be at the bay. I love the bay. It's not the same as the ocean, but you can be at the bay in less. You can be at the bay, 5 or 10 minutes. And it's like, it is a miracle that we have this on our planet, that we get to go and kind of commune with this space and with this energy. And they're all offering different things. Each beach can offer you something different, but they're all offering you something.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, it made me think of people who have maybe never experienced that, maybe have never been to a beach or seen those waves. And
I don't live right on the beach, but the fact that I could go and be at the beach any day of the week is sort of miraculous to me. The fact that I'm, the Mendocino, the coast up around Mendocino is unbelievably spectacular. And I feel like, wow, I'm so glad that I can get in the car, take a short drive, and be there, and that this is something that's there, that I can get this, I don't want to say power. I mean, it is power, but it's something you just feel replenished when you go to the ocean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. Switching beaches, how was your trip to Maui?
Well, I went to Hawaii as a kid with my parents, and we kind of did a tour of the 4 main islands. And then I've been back to Kauai twice, and I really had no sense of what Maui was, because we didn't even go to the beach there when we went. We had like one day, and we did that drive to Hana, which is a whole other episode of itself. But my partner and I have not had a big vacation together since before the pandemic, since the year before the pandemic. And we had a lot of ups and downs in terms of job losses, hour reductions, all this stuff. And we finally are in a place where we had this time to go, and we thought we are going to splurge. And we treated ourselves to a room that was ocean front. So you looked out our sliding glass door, and the ocean was right there. And I have to say about Hawaii that the oceans there and the beaches there demand a lot of respect, because they are warm enough to get into, but you can drown really easily. It's an island just out in the middle of the Pacific, and there are currents like crazy. And there are really powerful shore breaks. And if we didn't get to go snorkeling at least once a day, I kind of pitched a little mini fit. I really respect the ocean. And I really, again, this listening to your body, like, first of all, I'm going to take in all the information about a beach. Is this generally a safe beach or not? When I'm snorkeling, how does my body feel? Do I feel okay? And there are a couple of places that we went snorkeling. We didn't even get to go all the places, so we're already planning on going back. But, just being able to see sea turtles, like right there. They come up and they're grazing on like the little algae.
Yeah.
I didn't want to get too close, but like within maybe 5 feet. And, by trade, I'm a filmmaker, and so my partner bought us these little underwater holders for our iPhones. So I have like 45 minutes of like snorkeling footage, and then footage of being with these turtles. And it's wonderful. It's interesting because I can go into all kinds of wonderful, what I loved about it, that isn't just the beach, but it's like this beach culture.
Mm-hmm.
A big thing there is that a lot of people dine at food trucks. which I'm a huge food truck fan. I love food trucks. And right next to our hotel, there was like a little parking lot that was filled with like 10 food trucks of different choices of cuisine. And that's pretty much all we ate there. It's like, oh, let's go to the food trucks. And so put on your bathing suit, you go snorkeling. At some point you come home, you take a shower, you go to the food truck, you go to your room and sit out on the little lanai and listen to the, like, this pounding ocean. It is like big, but it's warm. So you have to be respectful. Kauai, I think, is still my favorite, but I would go back to Maui in a heartbeat. I would. They're both incredible. Kauai, we went snorkeling this one beach. There were about 10 turtles, like just hanging out. The fish were all like nibbling them. It's like a little spa for turtles under the ocean. They come and they're just like floating, and there are all these little fish like nibbling, I guess, algae or something that grows on their shells. And they were just hanging out, and like to be able to go and swim. And again, I'm super cautious. I pick beaches that it's like, yes, your 5-year-old could snorkel here. Mm-hmm. Snorkeling for me is like probably meditation, and yoga would be as well, because it really is around your breath. You know, you should breathe from your diaphragm, and you should breathe slowly. You've got those flippers on, you kick slowly, and it's just like you're traveling around in this beautiful world with like your little snorkel window to this world. And and there were some beaches we went to in Maui. There's Makena Beach, which is also called Big Beach. It's very dangerous. People don't necessarily drown there so much, but a lot of broken bones, because the surf break, I think that's the right term, is so rough. Mm-hmm. And my partner got in, and I was just like, no, I'm good. I'm going to just sit here and watch it. And, you know, it's powerful. It's kind of like here, except tropical, but not even, it kind of hovers between mid 70s and maybe high 80s, and you're never hot and you're never cold. It's like perfect. And it really is paradise. It really is.
Yeah, when you were talking about respecting the ocean, I just finished watching the 3 seasons of 100-Foot Wave.
Oh my gosh, we watched one of those before we left.
Yeah, being a filmmaker, oh my gosh, I'm sure you'd be blown away by how they filmed this. And you who are listening out there, I highly recommend this.
I agree. You reminded me we need to finish watching it. We only watched one episode, and we're like on the edge of our seats. It's like your heart is in your throat the whole time you are watching them surf these waves.
Yeah. The main character, he gives an offering to the ocean. He would go and pick flowers and palm fronds and make this bouquet. And before he went out, before a competition or just something, he's like, I first need to make this offering to the goddess of the ocean because I want to pay her respect.
Wow.
I mean, just watching them surf through these amazing, powerful waves. But that actually was almost more touching than anything else. I thought that is just so beautiful. And it was just like, yeah, that's just something that you do.
Right. That's so interesting you're saying that, because my memory of going to the beach as a kid is that you just ran into the water and were like, blah, blah, you know, like swimming, playing, splashing. I would never do that as an adult. I always sit for a minute, get grounded where I am, watch the water a little bit to try and understand, okay, what is this beach? What happens at this beach? What is it doing? And think about, it is almost like, am I getting the message that the beach is saying, yes, come on in? Or am I getting the message that the beach is saying, you know, enjoy me there on the shore? there is always that moment of just like, okay, who is this beach?
Oh my goodness, the way that you say that, I was talking about Cancun having a personality, like beaches have personalities, and Cancun was going through a bit of a seaweed problem. So the beach was telling me, because I was a little disappointed, and the beach was saying, I'm feeling so good right now. You might not want to hang out with me. And then Fort Walton Beach, Destin was like, you got to come in here. Like they were the life of the party. They wanted you in. They were like, yes, everybody, I'm fabulous. So yeah, I can see one, like I see you assessing the personality and, do you want to hang out? Do you want me to just stay back?
Right. It's
How really... you feeling right now?
Yeah. And you do have to listen. It's such a, not just with your ears, but in like all the ways that we can listen. You do have to, I think, when you go to a beach. And we went to Playa del Carmen, which is just south of Cancun, while the seaweed problem was going on. I don't know if it's still there. And I had the same feeling, like, okay, was not expecting to be slapped by giant pieces of kelp while in the water. But it is a beautiful place. And, listening. You really have to listen and take in what's going on at that beach, and on that day.
Right. And maybe you're not in the best of moods, but the beach can speak to you that way. Like,
right.
It's okay. If you're not feeling so hot, you'll probably feel better after a while. Just sit with me for a while.
I agree. I'm so thankful that friend that day said, let's go to the beach. I would have never suggested it. And it was like, oh my God, I love these beaches now. And I feel like they are there to help you recenter yourself if you need it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Pam, thank you so much for agreeing to hop on and tell your story about your love-hate relationship, which is now love
It's
with
love,
the beach.
Just like that cheesy ending of the rom-com. We're driving off to the chapel to get married, the Northern California beaches and I. But Paige, thank you. I love your podcast, and I've never talked to anybody about this before. It's not that it's a secret, but nobody has really wanted to know about my relationship with Northern California beaches. So I'm so glad that you let me tell it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. The beach is speaking. Are you listening? I love this conversation with Pam for so many reasons, but most of all for the transparency and vulnerability in which she chose to tell her story. And for that, I am deeply grateful and honored to have heard it. I was thinking back on previous episodes I recorded with guests, and it occurred to me that in every conversation there was at least one, if not many, people, places, or experiences that we had in common. I love how the beach speaks to us individually and as one, all at the same time. I'm curious, was there something in this conversation that made you say, me too? Go to my website, thebeachspeaks.com, and record a short voicemail to tell me about it. And while you're there, click on the subscribe to the newsletter button so you can get quick and easy beachy news, tips, and other messages the beach and I want to share. Just a little extra beach in your inbox. And please, tune into Pam's podcast, Art Heals All Wounds. Right now, she's doing a series on the topic of belonging, starting off with her endearing story about being adopted and her nose. I'll post all the links in the show notes. The beach is speaking. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Beach Speaks. If you like what you heard, share the podcast with another beach lover. And speaking of sharing, I want to know how the beach is speaking to you. To record a message, just go to my website, thebeachspeaks.com, click the voicemail button. It's super easy. And I'll play it on the show. And if more beach is what you crave, visit thebeachspeaks.com or follow The Beach Speaks on Facebook and Instagram, where I post all my gorgeous sunrise photos and videos. It's another way for you to reconnect with the beach, return to your soul, and reimagine your life. The beach is speaking. Are you listening?